Pitching ain't easy. Baseball is one of those sports where you can see a pitcher that's on top of the world, and in a few short years, they are fighting for a roster spot. They're one of the worst pitchers in baseball. So when you have a pitcher that has a great season, you want to cherish it because you may never see that season again. And for you to have that great season and to not win a Cy Young for it, it may have you feeling a type of way. Now, if you saw my previous video, I talked about some of the best seasons to not be crowned MVP. So what the question I'm trying to ask for you today is, what is some of the best pitching seasons that did not win a Cy Young for it? And I want to hone in and focus on the post-steroid era. And the post-steroid era for me is 2005 and on. With all of that said, I have compiled a list of the 13 best pitching seasons that did not win Cy Young. And if you do enjoy the content analysis that Paint the Black Baseball brings, maybe you can give me a like and subscribe. But let's get into this list. Now, in the MVP video, I calculated their numbers with Baseball Reference War and Fangraphs War and combined them. I did that for this video as well, but when it comes to pitching, it's definitely more than just looking at their WAR. You gotta look at their earned run average, their FIP. Were they a little bit lucky? Did they end up leaving a lot of men on base? Was their home run rate high? Did they walk too many batters? So we're gonna take a look at all of that, analyze it, and see, did they actually have the best pitching season, or did the voters get it right with the Cy Young? Do keep in mind, there was a time period with baseball where wins were king, and if you were a pitcher that had the most wins and you had a good season to go with it, chances are you're gonna win a Cy Young. So take that into account, but let's get into this list. So coming in at 13th place, we have Josh Johnson's 2010 season. In the 2010 season, he accumulated a 7.0 B WAR and a 6.0 F WAR for a 6.5 average. Now, Josh Johnson, before injuries derailed his career, he was special. If we take a look at his 2010 stats, he had a 2.30 ERA, a 2.41 FIP. That means he wasn't really unlucky. His defense didn't let him down. He had a .34 home run rate. He was not letting the ball leave the park. He was striking people out over at a 9 rate, and he wasn't walking batters as he had a 2.35 rate. He did everything in his power to lead his Marlins to victory. But unfortunately for Josh Johnson, he picked 2010, and in 2010, first off, rest in peace, Roy Halladay. Roy Halladay was having one of his best seasons. As he was a workhorse, he pitched 250.2 innings, and he also won 21 games. Keep in mind, at this time, win and loss records did matter. Josh Johnson only won 11 games. Roy Halladay won 21. Of course, that's going to factor. And keep in mind, Josh Johnson finished 5th in the voting. But let's take a look at Roy Halladay's advanced stats. He had a 2.44 ERA with 3.01 FIP. So technically, Josh Johnson was better if you factor FIP. But when you have a walk rate of 1.08, Roy Halladay never had a 9K rate, but he had a 7.86, which is really good for Roy. He was a little lucky with the left on base percentage. But either way, when you are a workhorse, you pitch 250 innings, you win 21 games, you deserve to win Cy Young. And unfortunately for Josh Johnson, like I said, he picked the wrong year to pitch like this. But in most years, Josh Johnson would have been in the race had he won a little bit more games and Roy Halladay wasn't there. But those two things did happen, and that's why he didn't win the Cy Young this season. Coming in at 12th place, we have Ubaldo Jimenez 2010 season, where he accumulated a 7.5 B WAR and a 6.0 F WAR for a 6.75 average. With Jimenez, I do just want to be on record for saying, for him to pitch like he did in Coors Field, you need to tip your cap to someone like that, because not many pitchers succeed in Coors like Jimenez did. And in his 2010 season, he had a 2.88 ERA, 3.10 FIP, 8.69 K rate. Jimenez did always have a walk rate with a career BB rate over 4, but this season he was at 3.74, so a little bit below his career norm, and he was able to pitch 221 innings, so that's how you know he was going deeper into games. But I did say this is 2010 season, so we do know Roy Halladay won the Cy Young. This was another example of Jimenez picked the wrong year to pitch, but in most circumstances, when you have the stats that he does, you would win. But Roy Halladay was just going deeper into games, and being a workhorse, doing all that, and winning 21 games, there was no way they weren't going to give it to him. But Jimenez did finish 3rd in voting. He won 19 games. So maybe had he won a few more games, he would have won it over Roy. But you can't be mad at them for giving it to Roy Halladay. Now, coming in 11th place, we have TR Willis' 2005 season, where he accumulated a 7.3 B WAR and a 6.5 F WAR for a 6.9 average. Do keep in mind that technically 2005 Roger Clemens seasons could have made my list, but seeing as he was the pitcher that was most tied to steroid era, I refuse to include him on my list. If you want to be upset with that, I understand, but Roger Clemens is not making my list. Off topic, but D-Train was one of my first favorite pitchers because of his throwing motion. It was so unique. But with D-Train having that throwing motion, year to year he varied, but he was able to put it all together in 2005 and have his best season, where he had a 2.63 ERA, a 2.99 FIP. His strikeout rate was 6.47. D-Train was never a strikeout pitcher, but he wasn't a strikeout pitcher and he tended to walk hitters. But this season was his best walk rate as he was more controlled as a pitcher. He won 22 games but lost 10 times. Remember that because it factors in the later. As the person who did win the 2005 NL Cy Young was Chris Carpenter, who won 21 games. He only had 5 losses. Him and D-Train's ERA plus was very similar. This was such a very close race that Chris Carpenter only won by 20 votes. And if we take a look at Chris Carpenter's stats, he had a 2.83 ERA, 2.90 FIP. His walk rate was below 2. He pitched 241 innings while D-Train pitched 236. This literally could have been anyone's. I think the deciding factor was Chris Carpenter lost a few less games than D-Train, and at this period in baseball, wins and losses did hold a higher regard than a lot of other stats. So that's why Chris Carpenter won over D-Train, but either one of these players deserved the Cy Young for what they did this season. Coming in at 10th place, we have Zack Greinke's 2015 season, where he accumulated 8.9 B WAR and a 5.3 F WAR for a 7.1 average. In 2015, Zack Greinke was with the Dodgers. He pitched 222.2 innings. He had an ERA of 1.66. It was a little bit lucky as his FIP was 2.76, a whole 1 ERA difference. But when you're on one of the best teams in baseball, that tends to happen for you. He had a home run rate below 0.6. His walk rate was 1.62, and even his strikeout rate was above 8. There wasn't anything that Zack Greinke couldn't do this season. And you can see that he was a little bit lucky as his left on base percentage is 86.5 and his career average was 74.6. So yes, Zack Greinke did have a little bit of luck to go with this season, but he came in second place to Jake Arrieta. And if you see by the voting points, he only lost by 22. He had a higher ERA plus, a lower ERA. But if we take a look at Jake Arrieta's advanced stats, he did technically have the better year as his FIP was 2.35 and you remember Zack Greinke's was 2.66. His home run rate was lower. His left on base percentage was lower. He was not as lucky as Greinke. Jake Arrieta had complete domination for this season. This is also one of his 2 seasons that have a strikeout rate over 9. He was really special this year. I don't blame them for giving it to Jake Arrieta over Zack Greinke as Greinke was a little bit more lucky than Jake Arrieta, and Jake Arrieta had 22 games won. That could have been a deciding factor. And keep in mind, he had more complete games as well. This is just one of those circumstances. Greinke would have won Cy Young most years, but he had some tough competition with 2015 Jake Arrieta. Coming in at 9th place, we have Johan Santana's 2005 season, where he accumulated a 7.2 B WAR and a 7.1 F WAR for a 7.15 average. And if we take a look at Johan's stats, he had a 2.87 ERA with a 2.80 FIP. He pitched to how he was expected. He pitched 231 innings. He had a strikeout rate over 9, a walk rate below 1.75. His home run rate is a little bit higher compared to all the others we've seen, but 0.85 is still good. And the person that won the Cy Young over him was Bartolo Colon. He won 21 games. He had a higher ERA than Johan Santana. He had a higher whip. And if we take a look at Bartolo Colon's advanced stats, his FIP was 3.75. His K rate was 6.35. Johan pitched more innings than him as well. I'm going to be on record. This is one of the definitions of they voted for the 21 game winner versus the actual best pitcher, because there's no debating that Johan was an overall better pitcher than Bartolo. below. Bartolo Colon just had 5 more wins than him, and the voters were like, well, that's good enough to vote for him over Johan, and they got this one completely wrong. Coming in at 8th place, we have Lance Lynn's 2019 season, where he accumulated a 7.7 B WAR and a 6.8 F WAR for a 7.25 average. Lance Lynn was with the Texas Rangers in 2019, and this is still to his date his best pitching season ever. It's one of his few years where he has a K rate over 10. That's amazing. He had a 3.67 ERA with a 3.13 FIP. That means he was unlucky. His home run rate was close to 1, but with his career 1.02, it's still below his career norms. His walk rate was below 3. Lance Lynn was locked in this year. If we take a look at the 2019 Cy Young voting, Lance Lynn finished 5th. Justin Verlander was the one who actually won it. And if we take a look at Justin Verlander's advanced stats, at 12 K rate with a 1.70 walk rate is astronomical. This was Justin Verlander's worst year as far as giving up the long ball, and he was very lucky with his left on base percentage, as he had 88.4 and his career average is 75.5, and with an ERA of 2.58 and a 3.27 FIP, he was a little bit lucky, but man, nah, Justin Verlander deserved to win this Cy Young. And he also had 21 wins, and Lance Lynn went 16-11. There was really nothing Lance Lynn could have done to probably win this over Justin Verlander this year. This is just one of those years where a Hall of Fame pitcher did his thing and won the Cy Young for a reason. But Lance Lynn, with a little more run support, could have won Cy Young in a different year. Coming in at 7th place, we have Zack Wheeler's 2021 season, where he accumulated a 7.5 B WAR and a 7.2 F WAR for a 7.35 average. In 2021, it was clearly Zack Wheeler's career year. He had his lone season with a K rate over 10. He had a 2.78 ERA with a 2.59 FIP. He had a walk rate below 2. As far as the home run ball, it was his lowest season as well. Zack Wheeler was locked in for the Phillies this year. One of the main things holding him back, he did have a win-loss record of 14-10, but as you enter the 2020s, voters started to factor that a little less. But let's take a look at the NL Cy Young voting. It was really close, as Corbin Burnes had 151 votes and Zack Wheeler had 141. He finished 2nd. Corbin Burnes only had 11 wins, to show you the fact that voters didn't care about win-loss record anymore. And if we take a look at Corbin Burnes' advanced statistics in 2021, he had a 1.63 FIP with a 2.43 ERA. That is one of the best seasons as far as FIP I've ever seen. He was let down by his defense, and his left on base percentage was right around his career norm, so he wasn't lucky in none of that regards. His home run rate was .38. He was not giving up the long ball. He wasn't walking hitters, and he was striking them out at a 12.61 rank. This is why he won the Cy Young over Zack. This is why he won the Cy Young over Zack Wheeler, despite only having 11 wins and 5 losses. He was astronomical as a pitcher. This is one of the best pitching seasons you will see. So you got to tip your cap to Corbin Burnes and Zack Wheeler. I'm sorry. You would have won Cy Young most years. You just happened to pick the wrong year to pitch like this. Coming in at 6th place, we have Justin Verlander's 2012 season, where he accumulated 8.1 B WAR and a 6.9 F WAR for a 7.5 average. Let's take a look at his 2012 numbers. He had a 2.64 ERA with a 2.94 FIP. It's right around similar. That means his defense didn't really let him down that much. He pitched 238 innings. That's how you know he was a workhorse. He had a K rate over 9, 2.27 walk rate with a career 2.50. It was below his career norm. That's how you know he had good control that year. Justin Verlander's always been someone that's given up the long ball, but even this year he gave it below his career norms. He did everything in his power to lead the Tigers to success, and he won 17 games, and that matters in 2012. But let's take a look who actually won the Cy Young. Justin Verlander finished in 2nd place. This one was really close. David Price had 153 votes, and Justin Verlander had 149. Do keep in mind that David Price won 20 games and only had 5 losses. But before we decide if Justin Verlander was robbed or not, let's take a look at David Price's advanced numbers, as he had a 2.56 ERA, 3.05 FIP. His FIP was higher than Verlander's. His K rate was below. He had 8.74, is still really good. A 2.5 walk rate and a .68 home run rate. This is one of those ones where I feel like the deciding factor was David Price winning more games than Justin Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander was actually the better pitcher this season, and his ERA plus shows it. David Price just won 3 more games and didn't have 3 more losses, so that was a deciding factor for the voters. And keep in mind, Justin Verlander pitched more innings too. This one should have gone to Justin Verlander. Coming in at 5th place, we have Aaron Nola's 2018 season, where he accumulated a 9.7 B WAR and a 5.5 F WAR for a 7.6 average. In 2018, Aaron Nola had a 2.37 ERA with a 3.01 FIP. He definitely was a little bit lucky. His defense was helping him. And Aaron Nola is someone that does give up the long ball. Pitching in Citizens Bank Park, it is a little bit of a hitter's paradise, but this season he kept his home run rate below 1. His walk rate was 2.46, and his K rate, which is always over 9, was still over 9. He won 17 games and only had 6 losses. There is nothing wrong with Aaron Nola's game in 2018, but let's see who won the Cy Young. It was Jacob deGrom, and Aaron Nola finished in 3rd place. But just taking a look at Jacob deGrom's numbers, he had a 1.70 ERA, and winning the Cy Young, only having 10 wins and 9 losses, lets you know just how dominant Jacob deGrom was. Let's take a look at his advanced stats on 2018. He had a 1.99 FIP with that 1.70 ERA. So his defense was doing everything in their power to make sure he succeeded in 2018. He had a home run rate of 0.41. That's easily his lowest ever. K rate over 11, walk rate below 2. There was no way they weren't giving it to Jacob deGrom. This is just another example of picking the wrong year to pitch how Aaron Nola pitched, because no way were they not giving it to Jacob deGrom when he was pitching how he was pitching. Coming in at 4th place, we have Max Scherzer's 2018 season, where he accumulated a 7.9 B WAR and a 7.5 F WAR for a 7.7 average. Let's take a look at his 2018 advanced stats. He had a 2.53 ERA with a 2.65 FIP. He had a left on base percentage of 81.3, means he might be a little lucky. He had a home run rate below 1, and that's good for Scherzer as he has a career 1.04. His walk rate was 2.08. K rate was over 12. And with him pitching 220.2 innings, he was a workhorse for the Washington Nationals. But seeing as we just said this was 2018, we know Jacob deGrom was the one who won it. Max Scherzer did win more games than him as he had 18 and Jacob deGrom's 10. But Jacob deGrom had a season where he had a 1.99 FIP. I'm sorry, when someone pitches like that, they deserve to win Cy Young. It's just tip your cap. Scherzer, so many years you deserve to win Cy Young for this season. You just happen to do this in a year that Jacob deGrom had an ERA below 2. And when someone has an ERA below 2, they deserve to win Cy Young. Coming in at 3rd place, we have Cliff Lee's 2011 season, where he accumulated an 8.5 B WAR and a 7.1 F WAR, which averages out to 7.8. Let's take a look at Cliff Lee's 2011 advanced stats. He had a 2.40 ERA with a 2.60 FIP. That's very similar, so there's nothing off with that. He had a home run rate of 0.70, which is below his career norm. His walk rate was below his career norm as well at 1.62. Cliff Lee was never a person that walked a lot of batters. And in 2011, he had his lone season with a K rate over 9, and he pitched 232 innings, so he was a workhorse at well and won 17 games. There's nothing Cliff Lee didn't do in this year to justify not winning Cy Young. We take a look at the voting. He came in at 3rd place, and the winner was Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw had 21 wins, an ERA of 2.28, and he led the league in strikeouts. So just taking those numbers into effect, you might understand why. But let's also look at Kershaw's advanced numbers in 2011. He had a 2.47 FIP with a 2.28 ERA, home run rate of 0.58, K rate over 9, 2.08 walk rate, which is below his career norm. He also pitched 233 innings. So let's just be honest, Cliff Lee definitely had a season that was justifiable for Cy Young. Clayton Kershaw was just a bit better, and he won more, and this was in the era where winning games mattered. There was no way he wasn't taking home this Cy Young. It is kind of ironic that overall Cliff Lee's best pitching season didn't come with a Cy Young. And speaking of Clayton Kershaw, coming in at 2nd place, we have Clayton Kershaw's 2015 season, where he accumulated a 7.3 B WAR and an 8.6 F WAR for a 7.95 average. Let's take a look at his advanced stats in 2015. He had a 2.13 ERA with a 1.99 FIP. You know how I feel when your FIP is below 2. That's something justifiable of winning the Cy Young. His home run rate was 0.58. His K rate was 11.64, his best season of his career, and he pitched 232 innings, so he was a workhorse. He only won 16 games, so maybe that held him back. Let's take a look at the voting. We do know that Jake Arrieta won this Cy Young because we talked about it earlier, and Jake won 22 games. So that might have been the reason he won it over Clayton Kershaw. But also keep in mind that Zack Greinke had a 1.66 ERA and Jake Arrieta had a 1.77 ERA. So it's kind of hard to not give it to pitchers that have an ERA below 2. So let's take a look again at Jake Arrieta's advanced stats. He had a 1.77 ERA and a 2.35 FIP. So Clayton Kershaw technically was a better pitcher, but the Chicago Cubs had a better defense around Jake Arrieta, so that allowed his ERA to be lower, and he won a few more games. So this is one of the ones where I feel like Clayton Kershaw had the better season, but Jake Arrieta had better talent around him, whether it was defense or his hitting leading to winning more games, and that's why he won the Cy Young. But had those things not happened, we could very well be talking about why Clayton Kershaw won and Jake Arrieta's on that list. Those variables is what changed this Cy Young voting for me. And coming in at first place, we have Roy Halladay's 2011 season, where he accumulated an 8.8 B WAR and an 8.7 F WAR for 8.75 average. Let's take a look at Roy Halladay's stats in 2011. He had an ERA at 2.35 and a FIP of 2.20. There's not much discrepancy there. He had a .39 home run rate, and to do that while pitching home at Citizens Bank Park is truly remarkable. He had his best K rate of his career at 8.47, and his walk rate was 1.35. And as we all know with Roy Halladay, he's a workhorse, and he had 233.2 innings. He won 19 games to 6 losses. So it's going to take someone having a really crazy season to top this. And as we all know, we talked about the 2011 Cy Young when it came to Cliff Lee's 2011 season. So knowing that, we know Clayton Kershaw won. We take a look at the voting. Roy Halladay came in second. His ERA plus was higher than Kershaw, but let's take a look again at Clayton Kershaw's 2011 season. While his FIP was a little bit higher than Roy Halladay's, his was 2.20, Kershaw's 2.47, and their ERAs were very close as well. I feel like the overall difference in Clayton Kershaw winning over Roy Halladay was him leading the league in strikeouts, WHIP. He also won 21 games. So when you factor those things in, that's maybe why he won it over him. But we do need to factor in that Roy Halladay did have 8 complete games as well. This is just one where there's just 3 pitchers that earned the right to win Cy Young. They just had to pick who was the best option. And at that point, I kind of don't fault them for going to the person that won the most games. That was the only difference between them. Him and Roy Halladay's numbers were very similar. It is what it is. But Roy, you definitely had a season justifiable of winning Cy Young. You just didn't win it. So yes, this was my list of the best pitching seasons since the steroid era to not win Cy Young. As you saw from this overall list, some of these pitchers had these great pitching seasons the same year. And when you have them the same year, only one person is able to win Cy Young. So in return, we have some of these great pitching seasons that were not rewarded with the Cy Young like they should have been. Now y'all let me know in the comments section, which of these pitching seasons do you think they got it wrong the most when it comes to Cy Young? I'm just going to be on record and saying the 2005 when Bartolo Colon won over Johan Santana would have been it for me, but I would love to see your thoughts and opinion in the comment section. And also let me know from this list of these pitchers, which one do you think, even though I presented all of these numbers and facts, you still believe the voters were justifiable in not voting them for Cy Young? I would love to hear that in the comment section as well. But as you know, with Paint the Black Baseball, I'm going to give you consistent content and analysis. That's why make sure to subscribe and turn the notification bell for all my videos so you can like and participate in the comment section. If you made it to the end of this video and enjoyed the content thoroughly, I do have other videos on my channel that you can go see, but I appreciate you staying here till the end, and I hope you have a great day.